talking about intervals today. The idea behind intervals is all music is built off this kind of concept. We're talking about something that is called tertiary. Now, tertiary, just in my opinion, and what we've gone through in all of these, it builds up to being able to see all these chords that are in the circle fifths, key signatures, as just being a 1, 3, and 5. The chords that are established that we already know are going to be a major. We're also going to have a minor. We have a diminished. And we have an augmented. Now, one thing I do want to point out is don't really use capital D's for any diminished. We use the lowercase d. And you'll know why, because it's representing a flat 3. Whenever we have a diminished third, it makes any triad into a minor. Meaning, you kind of got to know what the one, if we skip and we do the tertiary movement that we were just talking about, it would look like this. All of our notes, let's say we're doing the treble clef here. Treble clef is the G clef, represented here as the G line. So when we have this note, C, E, and G, we are representing a 1, 3, and a 5 of the chord. When we move up in step, you start seeing these triads develop. Now, the stacking of these chords relies on us knowing what a half step is. So, we're going to jump on over to that. When we play a C to a C sharp, that is an interval of a minor second. Meaning, there are notes in between here that are called enharmonic equivalences. Because when we go to the C and the D, the note in between is considered our minor second. So this minor second is super important because all of the chord constructions from these intervals are built off the concept of the minor second. 2 minor seconds make a major second. Notice that I'm writing an uppercase M and then a 2. Let me move this over here. There we go. Notice that we're writing an uppercase M. And then right here, when we go between here, D to E, absolutely. Well, that's also a major second. But what we're looking for is to define what that is. Well, when you add a minor second plus a minor second and a minor second, you get a note called a minor third. Now, this minor third is the D sharp, and its enharmonic equivalent, E flat. When we go to our E to F, this is a half step. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing the last or least amount of space in between any note. So when we have a minor second, major second, minor third, that would leave the E as being the major third. Now this interval is super important because these two intervals are the foundation of a major chord. Meaning when we play tertiarily, we have a major third and then our combination of a minor third. The idea is if this is a half step, that goes to our first, besides here, which is called the prime, or the root, or the tonic, whatever you want to call that. I represent it with a little P. And then when we go here, we're going to put a P4, because this is a perfect fourth. Above, if we augment this perfect fourth by one note, which would be the F, if we went up by a half step and made it to an F sharp, then our A flat, diminishing it from the 6th scale degree, goes back. 5 goes up, so we're augmenting it. Meaning G sharp is the note that we use when we're playing an augmented chord. So I think right now it'd be pretty interesting to say if you can see how you could play a major 1, 3, 5. When you play a 1, 3 sharp 5, you have an augmented. When you play a 1 flat 3, 5, you have the minor. And then when you play a flat 5 on top of that, you have your diminished. Now the significance of these is quite literally this. There's bubbles going on? What's up with that? Oh, that's fun. How you doing there? So when we go up in tone in nature, we go up by half step. That's the best way to say it. And sorry, I'm not the best talker and typer. Talker and typer. So, okay, when we go from here to here, this is called a major third. In the key of C, C to E. C to E, major third. When you diminish it by a half step, you would be making a C minor. Now, there is no C minor in the key of C, which means you're altering or you're tonicifying or changing or modulating to a different key. Well, let's go back here. The other stacked harmony is called a minor third. So the chord construction for a major is going to be a major third plus a minor third. That equals a major. When we have a minor, we flip that. We would be playing the minor third and then the major third. And then the reason for this is when we look at it through chord construction, these notes make sense that you're just flippity-flopping those finger tendencies. You would have one here with a major third and then a minor third. Now when you drop this down a half step, 3 minor seconds. And then now you have 4 minor seconds from here, which means it gives you a minor feeling. That tonality gives you the feeling of, like, I don't know, sadness, melancholiness. Depending on how you play it, it could even feel happy. All right. The augmented, as we aforementioned, is a major third plus a major third. And that gives you your augmented, which is represented by a plus sign. Minors are represented in standard jazz notation as hyphens or dashes. And then the major is represented by a triangle very often. Or you just leave the chord as a natural. And then, of course, if we have major third plus minor third plus major third plus major third, that must mean that a diminished is a minor third plus a minor third. And that equals the diminished, represented by a dot or an open circle above the chord. Now, what does this all mean? The only one that's not found in a key signature, which is major, is the augmented. So generally, this is one chord that a lot of people don't play. Reason being is you can use the augmented rather than using the diminished chord. Multiple octaves. After that, we call that a compound. We would have our C to here. Why, that's a P8. When we go above, that would be a compound octave. The idea is, if we're able to name these C8, P8, they give us kind of an idea of where these lie, to know which ones are consonants and which ones are dissonants. Meaning, we're going to have a couple of them that sound really good. Some of them that don't sound so great. And the whole point is to have them mesh so they're pleasing to the ear or they build tension. One of the ways that we use these is by doing chord analysis and doing something along the lines of looking at what key signatures we're using, along with the circle fifths, what type of chords are in the key, and then writing something from that. So what are intervals used for? They're used for many things. Just writing, making a song, creating something from scratch, chord analysis to hear what your favorite things are. We're going to use the example of the circle fifths right now. And we're going to put up there, let's see here. Here's our circle. C major has no sharps and flats. When we go to G, it has 1, D has 2, so on and so forth. F has 1 flat, B flat has 2, E flat has 3, A flat has 4, D flat 5, G flat 6, and C flat 7. And harmonically, I would rather use F sharp, C sharp, B, rather than using their enharmonic equivalences. However, right now we're just going to pick a simpler key so we can write in it. This one's going to be in G. G has 1 sharp. Lonely is the night. All right, here we go. I'm going to turn this into some magic. Said we were in the key of G, so we've got 1 sharp on the F line. When we're taking these notes, all we want to do is see a chord construction. We're going to put a little bitty triad out here and see which chord this is. So if we were to take this note on the treble clef, this is our C note. The sharp does not affect that. So if we're in the key of G, what I would do to analyze this, just to see those intervals at play, I would put up here a G, then an A, a B, the C, a D, E, and then F sharp, and I would add my diminished symbol, that little bitty dot which lets you know, hey guy, I'm different. Different but good. And here we go with the C. C, C, D, E, F. Well, if we go F up here to G, we could say one definitive thing. Our brains kind of fill in the blank and say, ooh, C is missing the E but has the G. If we've been looking at key signatures, we would know that the interval that goes betwixt the two is called a perfect fifth. If we were to take this note, the G, and drop it below, meaning if we have C, B, A, and then G, we can, without a doubt, say this. 9 minus 5 equals 4. When we have a perfect, they become another perfect. When we have an augmentation, it becomes a diminished. When we have a major, it becomes a minor. All these can be flipped, meaning if you have a minor, it can become a major. Minor, major. If you have a diminished, it can become an augmented. Diminished, augmented. So, looking at this concept, 9 minus 5 is 4. Opposite of a P is a P. You can rest assured to know that when you play on any instrument, when you play the notes of a C to a G, that this is a perfect fifth. If you take this same note and you put it below, you now have a perfect fourth. This happens in every key. So if you have a third here, you would know this basic construction. Put our 9 here because we're going to be doing some here we go. Let's take that same concept and let's just do the G, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major 6, major 7. And this is our prime or our root or our tonic. So is B in the key of G? For sure, it's a major third. We look up here and say what's the opposite? It's a minor 6. So you could rest assured that when we're doing anything on the piano, let me see if I'm in the right here. So if we're playing in the key of, what is this? We have our G. This G note is going to go up, right? A third to the B. So if we know that this is a major third, when we put this note down here, that is a minor 6. No matter where you do it. Major third, minor 6. So this is kind of how we throw these kind of options around so our fingers know what to play on our specific instruments. You start looking at these notes in songwriting and like, I don't know, if you're playing like something that didn't sound as pleasing as a minor or a major, there's a couple more shifts that are a little bit more dissonant. Let's look at one of those. If we were going to go to, let's say, how about G again, because it's a good stable foundation, and then all the way up to the F sharp. Aw, gee whiz! So if we're going up here and we have a G and then an F sharp, first thing we need to do is say to ourselves, cool, how many notes away is this? G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Right? So that's 7. What is 9 minus 7? 7, 8, 9, 2. So if we take this F sharp and put it down below, we're also looking at doing this kind of thing right here. If you're looking at the key of F major, there is one flat. That flat is B flat. Knowing that there's one flat, the key of F, you could take that flat away. How many sharps are there in F sharp? There are 6. So when I write F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, bam. I know definitively there are 6 of these. So then I say to myself, in F sharp, is there a G sharp? And right here, we're looking here, and there's a G sharp, but there's no G. So here's what we're looking at. If this is the major instead of a major, minor. Do you see how they both can be flip-flopped? By doing this, we're able to look at notes where they are. And then when we play them, we can see how this major or minor second has a lot of tension building. But this doesn't have as much tension. Just knowing that allows us to build brighter and prettier chords, and then omit notes if we want to make it a little funky. So if we were doing the F, we would have the same kind of feeling. That F in and of itself allows us to play around. Let's see if I can have some fun with that. Would we change that F sharp to an F natural? It absolutely changes the feel, especially if you play it like this with a B diminished and a G. Feels more like a B diminished than it does a G7 now, doesn't it? Depending on where those notes are. F major sounds great because what we're doing is we're kind of using that F major as something called a backdoor resolution. Now, I don't want to talk about those type of preferences today. I just really want to stay with intervals and why we use those intervals for, part writing and how to see these notes on the grand staff. That's the whole purpose of this venture today. So let's do one more so we can show what something awkward looks like. How about a diminished? One valid thing to point out too is that the prime is the prime, the tonic. You can call it an augmented prime, so you could have a 1 augmented. That works all day long. G augmented is just G, B, D sharp. That construction would fall upon the triad and alternating. When you have a 2, the 2 can be a minor. It can be a major. All of these notes can be augmented and diminished because you say for me, A, B, C, D, E. Now that's 5 notes still. But then when we look down here, we say to ourselves, you know what? E, A is A in the key D flat. And you think to yourself, no. Why? Why do we think that? Because when we're writing out the key of E, C has none, F has 1, B has 2, E has 3. So we say E flat. When we go to F, G, A flat, B flat. We don't have to go any further because we know right there that's what those notes are going to be. You only have 3 flats. Is A in the key of E flat? The answer is no. This is a perfect 4th. So a diminished 4th is what we're looking at. Cool. What's the opposite of diminished? A. Augmented. Ta-da! That's how you know to see these preferences and be able to work it on your instrument of choice and say something along the lines of, well, I know definitively an A to an E is a 5th, just like C to G or D to A. So when we play these two, if we flatten that, we know that that is a diminished We have diminished that, correct? And now if you put it the other way, yeah. Hear how these notes still build tension? If we're able to recognize these, we'll start to see them in the music that we really like, and when we're doing a little bit of chord analysis. Now, what is this all for? The idea is whenever you put on a piece of music, whether it's the 1812 Overture, or if you put on some, Ravi Shankar or Allman Brothers, doesn't matter what it is, or some Fish, there are chords that are going to be played. There are notes that are going to be played over the top of them. So the fun of it at a certain point is when you got a couple chords underneath your belt, being able to play some songs and then utilize the notes that are in the key, knowing a couple of the rules, and then breaking those rules. If you break those rules, you come up with some pretty fun stuff. And then you'll find that most of the notes that are in between here are like your accidentals. They're superfluous notes that don't really need to be there in melodies. And I guess maybe through example, if we were doing something like, let's see here. What key is up here? G major. So we have G major, A minor, B minor, C major. We have a D minor. And then we have our B diminished. Put a finger down on the string we just released. We get a wonderful diminished chord. Now, all that means is we are stacking thirds. So this diminished chord, like an F sharp diminished, can add a little bit more tension by making it a full or a half diminished. Either way, you hear different sounds that are arriving because of the tones being moved between the major third or the minor third, whether they're being stacked together or they're stacked separately. Another chord that I'd like you to see and examine, let's say in the key of G here. When we have any chord, like a G major on any instrument, 1, 3, 5, G, B, D is our major third, minor third. When we change that to a minor, we are moving the third. Hence, if you play the other two notes and that new flattened mediant, you get a minor chord. So what we're looking for after that is being able to take that fifth and then drop it. So in a GBD, oh, by the way, all music is viewed through the eyes of the major and then altered to understand what those intervals are. I hope that was presently exchanged when we were talking about how to see these. The reason why we put the other key underneath here is because I'm also checking it with another key signature to make sure I'm on the right page with these intervals. And here's the rub. When you do it over and 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 over, and you just clock time, you become a little bit better at doing this each day. I would encourage everybody to draw up the circle fifths, pick up an instrument of choice, and try things like this. So that G major became a G minor. Our G's are 1, so it stays present, but we are going to move this note down. So we have this construction, and that sounds great because we have this open G. On the ukulele, we would do something like this, and then move that up and down the fretboard. But this chord sounds great for a diminished chord. And then the other one that we said we don't really talk often about because it's not located in a major scale. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. The next one is an augmentation. So we have 1, 3, 5, and we raise the fifth. So anybody who plays a little bit of ouk or guitar, A minor on guitar, D minor on the ouk, this chord played right here gives you your augmentation note. Now, I like to use augs to go between like the relative minor of the chord, the major, and the aug. It feels wonderful. Whatever instrument you're on, try like a G major, G aug, E minor, and then back to it. I don't know. Reminds me of like the Muppets or something. Or vaudeville or kind of like poppy jazz. Fun, fun, fun to solo over. And you can do it in every key. If you had... You're just moving the 1, or no, I'm sorry, the 5 up a half step, augment again, and then back down. Coolness.